Hi everyone, I'm Sugandha Sharma. I'm a third year PhD student in BCS and I work jointly with Professor Ila Feet and Professor Josh Tenenbaum. Today I'll be talking to you about compositional spatial maps. So humans learn maps of their residential neighborhoods or of their apartment buildings. In addition, they also learn maps of their workplaces like offices or universities. Furthermore, they learn maps of their favorite shopping malls and even other parts of the city that they might only occasionally visit, for instance, maybe the downtown area. We are really learning a large number of these maps. And so the question is, how are these large number of maps learned and stored efficiently in the brain? One hypothesis is that we might be breaking up these maps into small components called submaps. These submaps then drive fast learning in complex environments because they help us generalize to new environments since we can reuse submaps when we encounter a spatial structure that is similar to a spatial structure seen before. One example is Costco. When I go to Costco in Waterloo, I learn the layout of Costco. For instance, I know that the clothing area is at the center and that the aisles are at the back and that the bakery area is adjacent to the clothing area and so on. And so when I come to US, I can go to Costco again here and I can reuse the map that I learned in Waterloo or Canada. Similarly, for roundabouts, you can see that if you've learned how to navigate through a roundabout in any city, you can go to a completely different city or even country and still navigate through the roundabout efficiently. And so generally, we learn novel environments as compositions of spatial structures that we've seen before, and that allows quick learning and generalization. For instance, if I go to a new city, which also has Costco and which also has a roundabout, I do not need to relearn those submaps again. I can just simply use my previous submaps and focus on learning the rest of the details of this new environment. Another example is an apartment building. An apartment building like this, which is usually composed of only a certain type of apartments, like one bedroom and two bedroom apartments. In this case, this whole building is just composed of these two layouts. And so we can think of representing the map of this building as just compositions of these two layouts. There's also neural evidence and neural data shows signatures of submap construction. So in rodent experiments, it has been observed that when rodents are left to navigate freely in this two-room environment, where these two rooms are connected by a corridor, it is seen that their map representations are fragmented into submaps. And furthermore, the map representations of room 1 and 2 are identical, and that suggests reusing of this submap. So you can see here in the firing fields that the firing fields of these two rooms are completely identical, indicating that it's the same map that is being reused even within this environment. We built a neural circuit model for recognition of position in map space. In this model, we have grid cells, which are found in medial entorhinal cortex in the brain, and place cells, which are found in hippocampus. Both grid cells and place cells encode space. And we also have sensory input that comes from the lateral entorhinal cortex. So in this model, place cells receive sensory input from sensory cells and location input from grid cells and form conjunctive representations. So given a sensory input, this model can predict where a particular person is located in the map. So it can predict your location in map space. In this model, large changes in sensory input, for instance, going from kitchen to the living room, correspond to transitions from one submap to another. We also find that this network has exponential capacity, which means that it can store exponentially many mappings between sensory inputs and locations in map space. Next, we wanted to see whether we also see signatures of submap construction in humans. And for that, we designed this behavioral study where we put participants in a 3D navigation environment, which is a virtual environment. And the task is for the subjects to navigate this environment and find the maximum number of diamonds possible in the minimum amount of time given to them. So here I'll show you an example of a single trial. The subject navigates through the environment and turns into a unit from the environment, and it goes to the left room first, and it doesn't find the diamond there. And then it goes to the right room and it ends up finding the diamond there. Now it goes back to the corridor and it keeps navigating further, and then it enters another unit. And coincidentally, this unit actually looks very similar to the previous unit. So the subject directly goes to the right room where it expects to find the reward. And similarly, they go on to explore other units in the environment. So let me show you the results. What we find in this study is that humans perceive environments as composed of repeating submaps. So since the environments were composed of repeating structures, the participants first explore all the rooms when they encounter the spatial structure for the first time. And after 1 or 2 times, they learn the submap, and they learn the fact that the submap is just repeating across the spatial structure. And so they only go to the rooms selectively where they expect to find rewards. In order to fully understand what people are doing in this task, we aim to build a system that mimics the kind of paths people are taking in these environments. We hypothesize that to solve this task, people simulate an expected spatial map based on their observations, and then they use this expected map to choose an action and test that action in the real world. The result of each action is new observations, which might be consistent with their expected map. If they're consistent, then subjects might keep using the same current map. However, if the new observations are inconsistent with their expected map, they might have to change something about their internal model to better reflect the observations that they've made. These experiments and models will help us understand how the brain represents spatial maps in a generalizable way, and this will also allow for better AI systems for spatial mapping and planning. Eventually, we want to combine neuroscience, cognitive science, and artificial intelligence to give a unified perspective on how to use internal models to represent space and other structured knowledge, example, relationships in a family tree. And we also want to see how these representations can be used to plan and successfully solve many difficult reasoning tasks. Thank you.